happening, folks? Gigi here for another edition of B-Sides and Rarities, and tonight we've got quite a couple of people to hear from tonight. Now, I do want to, and I'll bring them on in just a second here, I do want to reiterate that, first of all, I just dropped my vape pen. There it is. And then, second of all, this show is, although this is a Shift Happens spinoff, this episode is the opinions and theories expressed during this conversation in no way, shape, or form reflect the opinions of the Fringe FM. In fact, this is not even on the Fringe FM. This is a completely separate show. So before you send me some hate mail, just understand that this is a side show thing, and the Fringe FM has nothing to do with this. Which also means we don't have to take commercial breaks, and we can also say whatever the fuck we want, basically. So, with that being said, man, I can't help myself but to say that term. One of these days, I'll figure out a different term. So, without any further ado whatsoever, we've got our two guests for the night, C.W. Chanter and
hello,
the Occult Priestess, otherwise known as Korinne Wilson. What's happening, guys?
Good evening.
How you doing? How's everybody doing tonight?
So far, so good. I'm still alive, so I take that as a good thing. Is Brad still here, or did he go back to cook dinner? I guess he's not here. So.
I'll go look for him.
All right, so
I'll be right back.
That's it. Last they ever heard from him.
All right, so like I said, I because there's here's the thing, folks. When it comes to not only Chanter here, but also with Korinne, is they have a lot of inside scoop on what goes on behind the scenes of this industry. And I kind of relate it to the skateboarding industry, because back when I was a part of it, I kind of am loosely, but back in the day, it wasn't this corporate, it was just a bunch of hooligans running around with video cameras and skateboards. There was no real industry to it. But then all of a sudden the corporate stuff got involved, and next thing you know, there's all kinds of hijinks and really shady stuff going on behind the scenes, going as far as actually infiltrating the scene for a negative reason. And I think we are seeing the same thing happening in this industry, whatever you want to call this, talk radio, all of us that go to all these conferences like Contact in the Desert, and the guests that we have on our shows, like the ones you see on Ancient Aliens and Hangar One and what have you. But there really is. Now, I'm going to say right now, I've got a lot of friends in this industry, and I'm not trying to burn any bridges here, but I have a feeling.
Too late.
Yeah, but there are going to be some things talked about tonight that I'm not going to take a stance either way. Let me put it this way. I can be a best friend to anybody unless I'm skateboarding down a handrail and you're a cop trying to give me a ticket for skateboarding. Other than that, it's pretty much impossible to not get along with me. I don't care what you do and who you do it for. I understand your predicament, and I understand why you're doing what you're doing, and I'm sure there's a good reason for it. But with that having been said, Chanter here especially, he's got some insight on some folks that are pretty popular on this industry that, although I may or may not agree on, I think it's worthwhile to hear his opinion because he is a very well-researched, very knowledgeable person when it comes to what is happening in this industry, just as well as Korinne is, or the Occult Priestess, as she's known. And that's really what we want to do here today. I just want to be clear. I'm not, I'm friends with all my friends in the industry. I'm not trying to
You've covered
bash.
your ass enough, Gigi. Come on.
I know.
Yeah,
I just want to
beyond
make
that,
it very clear. I just want to make it very clear.
Listen, but it's all for naught. At this point, we have to just tap you on the shoulder and say to you.
All right.
Not only it'd be one thing if you had CW Chanter on by himself. That'd be enough. But you have CW Chanter and the Occult Priestess.
Yeah.
Brian, you have made so many lists already. The notion that you're going to preserve your relationship with anybody in certain circles. Oh, believe you me, on Stellar, they're working. I guarantee you, there's a secret Discord server set up right now to find your worst skateboard fouls. They already have they're already farming out the editing.
Those
work.
are already on YouTube. Just type in Brian Bresser on YouTube. You can see me eating shit all day.
Watch Chanter work,
but by the way,
I normally have to pay good money for that.
Everybody but by the way, Chanter, everybody in this industry, they think my name is Gigi. So if you say Brian, they don't know who you're talking about.
I'll be sure to call you GJ.
Okay, yeah, and trust me, it's a long accidental story as to why people think that's my name, but that's just how it is. That's just how it is. I guess, but basically what I'm trying to say is I have no hard feelings towards anybody, but I do feel like what Chanter and Korinne have to say is worth hearing. So that's really what we're doing tonight.
No, I hear you. But, my friend, it's funny because there's, you can be political to a point, but then at a certain point, because technically, what your entire intro speech, you covered your ass so much. Technically, you basically said, like, I don't care if you're a neo-Nazi skinhead. Yep. I don't care if you're a rapist. Yep. I understand who you are, where you're coming from, and you've got some good reason to be a child killer.
Hey, I'm just
That's literally, you're like, I don't care who you are, what you've done, who you've done it to, what your attitude about women is. I don't care what your stance on #MeToo is. That's my stance too, and I pretty much can relate to everybody.
Okay.
Actually, at this point, I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's right. Let's start talking about this. If I really want to throw you under the bus at this point, I'd start talking about the Jewish question. I'm teasing because I'm Jewish. That was joking.
That was a very unique way of explaining it, but yeah, exactly. So I'm just trying to, I'm not trying
to desperately cover your ass for fear that what's inevitably is going to happen is going to happen. Believe you me, CW Chanter, you're like, I just invited Voldemort over for dinner. You know what I mean? Believe on Stellar is there are factions forming already.
Yeah, but that's
some
my
of those
thing.
Factions have nothing to do with what I say, just how I say it. Some people just think I'm a total jerk.
Yeah, well, and that's my thing. Who wouldn't want to have dinner with Voldemort? Wouldn't that be interesting, right? So, I guess that's kind of what we're doing here, I guess. But no, you have...
So we are the opposite of Voldemort, and we see things with different eyes, and that's why we're already on different pages with you, Gigi.
Yeah, no, I meant that in not that sense. But anyway, let's get on with this. So
remember, I'm Hermione. I'm the correction.
Oh, I will never forget that. Trust me, Korinne. I never
think
forget that.
At this point, me and Korinne have to enter into a secret pact to figure out as many ways that we can get Gigi under the bus. He'll try to desperately escape, and we just got to keep on getting him under there. You know what I mean?
He's going to do it by himself. Don't worry.
Let's talk about the real problem with this community.
All right, so...
Ex-skateboarders infiltrating the occult and underground New Age communities in an attempt to derail conversations and control the operations as secret agents and shills for Big Fade to Black.
Wow!
This is already a great show already. I love this. Okay, so... But
He's a fully paid representative of Big Church.
So, well, the truth is
no, actually, I'm just
background.
Honestly,
and we all
I'm
know
not.
That.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm friends with Jimmy and Rita, but we have no sort of we have no any sort of contractual anything. We're just friends.
Well,
so
that's not what my inside information says, and you did such a brilliant job of setting me up with that inside. I'm teasing you, of course. You gotta be careful because you know what I mean. I don't want to make the young man have a heart attack.
Yeah,
no, he's a Josher.
No, but no, I literally have. In fact, my show is on the Fringe FM, which is the rival of Jimmy's network. So we obviously have nothing. There's no business ties. That's
exactly what they want you to think. That's like the Illuminati control North Korea and the United States of America, all from London.
Okay, let's get off of this real quick.
Well, I understand what Chanter just
that's
said.
What she
that
said.
made sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that is over. I think that's exaggerated a little bit, especially if you talk to them. We obviously don't have much in common other than we just hang out together at conferences. That's basically all it is.
Yeah, but we're talking about the bigger picture. We're talking about who runs all the way up to the top. And we have bigger picture insights, and that's how we look at things instead of small little, what is affecting my tiny little life. We look at the oversoul of humanity.
And that's exactly why I have both of you here tonight. So the first thing I want to discuss now...
Will you admit you are not a conspiracy theorist, please?
I don't know. I think I am.
You're too wimpy to be one.
No, I am. I'm just very selective of who I tell my theories to. Although,
I see. See, we're just out in the open. We tell everybody everything.
Yeah. Well, on my show, on my regular show, I'll tell you exactly what I think about anything.
Okay. Well, let's move forward.
But on the side show, you keep it under wraps. That makes no sense. That's the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
No, okay. Let me correct myself real quick, and then let's get into the show. I just know that we're going to get into some stuff that concerns friends of mine that I have in the industry, and I just wanted to make clear that I don't care either way. They're still my friends, but at the same time, you do have real information that I feel like everybody should know. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And they were your friends because you brought me here to spread the real information, and real information is contrary to the goals of the you said it perfectly. You know it. Everyone says the same term, naturally and organically. The industry.
Yes, exactly. It's not a community. It's an industry.
And, the saddest thing of all is that there's a community that desires to be an organic community. And it's not necessarily been infiltrated, but on top of it has been placed, this mechanism and this basically this big old school music industry machine.
Yes, thank you. It's the entertainment industrial complex.
This old school entertainment industry complex that sits on top of it and turns what should be investigations of spiritual knowledge and information, which should be investigations of politics and depersonalized and objective reporting of underground or suppressed information, and instead it becomes a competition field for people to stake their claims, catch their viewers, maintain their audience, loop their audience in, sell merch. You know what I mean?
It's a cult of personality.
Yeah. Basically, this industry,
it's not just ours. Bigger picture, Pisces view. It's the world.
Well, let's start here, and then we'll get to, because here's what happens sometimes. The industry that we're talking about specifically would love it if we kept on ramping up to big picture, because when you ramp up to big picture, that's when you lose focus from them, and they could say, "Oh, we're the good guys. We're trying to help, point fingers above." But a lot of them are doing it with this, erroneous information and just made up nonsense. Right. Hey, listen, look, agendas happen, hierarchies happen. These are organic things to human society to a degree.
Yeah.
But the natural cure for them, the curative, is to talk about that, to talk about it existing and to bring it out to the open and to lay it out so people can look at people's information and look at the whole product, no pun intended, to deconstruct it and find out, what's editorial, what's real information, and what's agenda.
And that's exactly what I want to do here tonight. Now, and to kick it off, right away, I already know I'm going to get some hate mail for this, but I feel like this is important to discuss, and I feel like this is something that we should be thinking about. And, once again, this has nothing to do with my relationships with anybody, but
I have friends too, Gigi. You're not the only one.
Yeah, well, here's my thing. So, Teresa Llaneros, right?
Mm-hmm.
She got propped up out of nowhere all of a sudden. I mean, she did write a book, but then all of a sudden...
We call it false elevation.
I mean, but it's not just her. It's her and Jordan Sather and Emery Smith, like all these people that really have no background that just all of a sudden are headlining conferences. Like, especially Jordan. He really genuinely has not contributed anything. Yeah, he's got his little online class or whatever, but he has no... Compared to, like, Robert Schoch, right? Who's been doing this for 40 years, and he's written a bunch of books, or Graham Hancock, he's been in this industry forever. Then all of a sudden, these young kids are coming up, but it turns out all of these young people, Teresa, Jordan, Emery's not that young, but same group, Corey Good, all of these people are being propped up by some sort of corporate organization that some people would say, I'm not saying I'm saying it, but I'm saying that some people say are, propped up to infiltrate this industry to steer it into another direction. And with that having been said, what do you have to say about that?
I think we should ask if it's really corporate, because some of these people have parents that are in the military, that have worked for Boeing, have worked for, the government institutions. We have to look at their backgrounds.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is good about having me and Korinne on at the same time is that we both are looking at the same industry, but from different perspectives.
Exactly.
So, and both of them, and I think both the sources of information need to be explored if people are going to try and start their exploration to find what resonates with them and what they think is true about the situation. I mean, my attitude about it is that there are different ways that you can look at it and analyze it. You could say that it's a corporate structure, or it's an agenda, or it's this thing. My attitude about it was that if you look at all these guys, basically what a lot of people like Richard Dolan and Joseph P. Farrell have been pointing out is there was a moment in time where there were always problems in the ufology, human potential movement, conspiracy theory conference movement of the notion of, and listen, without a doubt, there's the FBI. If you go to a UFO conference, believe you me, the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA, they're there.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're there.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. I mean, and they know it, and they've come out. I mean,
even
Richard
the Marines
Doty is a real-life military intelligence officer there's a whole documentary film made about him. They get involved. They really do. And they're absolutely there. They're at hacker conventions. Hey, let's be honest. The CIA, the FBI, and the NSA have agents at Comic-Con.
Absolutely.
They do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And because you come from the festival scene, that those are brainwashing festivals to vampirize the soul.
And also, I know firsthand because one of my best. Also, I know firsthand because one of my best friends is in the MARSOC program of the Marines. Which, to put that into perspective, that's like the Navy SEALs equivalent of the Marines. And I don't know if they were there this year or last year rather, but 2017, 2016, and 2015, they were on the spot, undercover, monitoring the whole thing, because they are just as curious as we are as to what new information is coming out and who's saying what. Like, they're there to hear it too, but they're also there to make sure, I found multiple situations, including the infamous encounter with me and Kastara, where as soon as we were out in the parking lot that's like 300 yards away from where anybody is. Nobody is out there unless they're leaving. There was nobody out there. And then as soon as she started talking to me about some pretty significant information regarding things that might potentially happen, these guys just showed up and just interjected into the conversation and broke the whole conversation up. And it turns out, and so I asked, at the time, I didn't know who they were. But after a while, I kind of figured it out, and I asked my friend, who is, not only is he in the Special Ops Division of the Marines, he actually received the Gung Ho Award, which means that all of the people in Special Ops Marines voted this guy as the number one badass, the number one guy of the whole team. And he told me straight, because I called him and asked him, I was like, hey, are you guys here? And he was like, yeah, obviously, we're monitoring the whole thing. And so there's a lot of infiltration from not just the military-industrial complex, but also from, the major, what Jim Mars, may he rest in peace, what he always talked about, which is, every media, network, magazine, publication, anything, it's all owned under one of 6 different ultra corporations, which all 6 of those are all owned under Viacom. It's all one fucking thing. And
I have a blog entitled Men Who Stare at New Agers at Occultist in the Corner WordPress. And so I've seen the infiltration because I've been in the psychic community since I was a teenager. And that is when the remote viewers started coming to the psychic fairs that you now call UFO expos, but they were psychic fairs. Mm-hmm. And I understand the deeper background and the past of these things. We're at this point not talking about the past. We're talking about the now and how everything has shown up. But people old school like me remember the satanic panic and that Disney brainwashed children, and that many people here in California have been through brainwash programs and are now semi-celebrities. So there is an undercurrent here that we are not exactly addressing.
I agree 100%. And so let me get back to the first thing that I really did want to talk about. So, which is, I'm just going to say it. It's Teresa Llaneros. So we all, anybody that's following this industry knows that, so on Jimmy Church's show, Faded Black, by the way, quick disclaimer, I love you, Jimmy. I love you, Rita. I have nothing against you. I'm just asking questions, okay? I'm just asking questions.
That's like trying to tell your Jewish friends, yeah, I was hanging out with Hitler, but he's kind of a funny guy and he's a great cook. Yeah. You're doomed.
Yeah.
You're doomed. Your bridges are burning. It's me and the Occult. Believe you me, it'd be one thing if it was just CW Chanter, but you're basically like hosting the Red Wedding over here for the likes of Gaia and Wilcock and all these things. So the notion that you're going to save any of your connections, we'll burn them. And if nothing else, I'll just allege that we're having a homosexual affair, and I'll really blow up your spot.
All right, well,
you're going down, son.
Well, no pun intended. How about this? How about this? If my questioning about this situation really burns those bridges, then so be it. Right.
Before you introduce what she's done for the community, Divine Frequency, or the industrial complex, why don't you tell us about her background and what she went to school for, please?
Wait, hold on. Before Chanter answers that question, I just want to point out that as well as pretty much anybody knows, for Faded Black for the last several years, John Rappaport has had a regular segment every Thursday night on Fair Night. He gets 30 minutes to talk about whatever he wants to talk about, right? And then just about maybe 2 months ago, maybe a month ago, I think it was about 2 months ago, they replaced him with Teresa Llaneros. Not only did they replace him, but Jimmy and Rita spent a shitload of money building her own studio. Like, this was a very big operation. And then next thing you know, as soon as she starts doing her Thursday segments, next thing you know, she's gone. Not a word. Jimmy didn't say anything about it. The website didn't say anything about it. They acted like it never even happened.
Now, that is the difference between community and an industrial complex.
Well, and that's my question for Chanter. Why? Because I kind of know what happened, but
well, then we got questions. Here's what I think would be helpful, not to interrupt and not to steal focus or
right.
You know,
yeah.
But I think because me and Korinne, there's like a Venn diagram. There's a nexus of connect. I think if anyone were to listen to already the first couple of moments of this broadcast would know that there are points of consensus. It's like a Venn diagram. There's points of consensus and there's points of divergence. And I think what would be helpful for the audience is because obviously we've talked about in the past, I know that Korinne has a different kind of feel for what it's about, like what the issue is. And I've got my own kind of more mundane, kind of simpler information. So maybe what would help is that if I kind of just laid out my take on what we can see as an audience observing things and what issues I see there just from a pragmatic kind of perspective. And then maybe Korinne could add her insight as to what the possible larger implications are that I may agree with. I may not agree with all of them. It just is what it is. The juxtaposition of John Rappaport against Teresa Yaneros and the whole presence of Teresa Yaneros and Jordan Sather and these individuals in the community really is really a statement about why in this community that is supposed to be about intelligence, wisdom, objectivity, sincerity, do we see a kind of game being played out or people being promoted who seem like the reason they're being promoted is for rather superficial reasons. And it goes something like this. Here's what I'll say. Teresa Yaneros came out of nowhere with a strength and a power and an agenda. She was at one place and she decided, you could tell it was willful. She wanted to be a participant, be a part of it. She wrote a book, but she wrote a book about a very in-depth subject my attitude about mysticism, magic, the occult, spirituality, real magic, what it's all about, manifestation. If you were going to have anything of value to add to the bookshelf, the already burgeoning, blowing up, overexpansive bookshelf of New Age and spiritual wisdom that's available, you would think that a person would have to have years and years and years of experience. When we think of gurus, we didn't always think about gals like Teresa Yaneros and Teal Swan. Yikes. Back in the day, when you thought about a guru, and even beyond the male guru, there have been mas, there have been women that have been considered incarnations of the divine feminine. There have been women that have been, there have been women that have been considered, teachers of the divine or true conduits to spiritual knowledge and information. But just like their male counterparts, they had one thing in common: they weren't pretty young chippies; they were crones. They weren't buff young men who looked like they were working. They just came out of the gym. They were old men, wrinkled, weazened, teeth falling out, one eye. Right. You know what I mean? Because they didn't care to go to the ophthalmologist when instead they could have just stared at the sun for another hour, even though as people were telling them that that's what was burning their eye out. So when we look at this thing, we know that Teresa came here and with this whole part of the Corey Good camp, she glommed onto that very well, and she became an integral part of that. Roger Ramsour, Corey Good, David Wilcock, Gaia TV access early on. And what's really interesting to watch is there's three things that I want to lay out. Number one, how quickly she was accepted and put in a very powerful PR position in that operation, along with Sterling, along with other young ladies that people could say, what is these guys seem like novices. They seem like beginners. It doesn't
Jordan
seem like
Sather.
These are the type. Yeah, Jordan Sather. Like, why are we listening to these people as the font of wisdom? even game beyond the ageist angle that you could accuse me of having here, that there wouldn't be anything of value that they could have to say because they're not of a certain age or not of a certain amount of experience. Look at the actual work that they produce. Teresa and Eros, there's these highfalutin concepts floating out there like spirituality and ascension and disclosure and the power of dreams and insight. But then it's juxtaposed with hashtag mermaid life and hi guys, and a gal who not my cup of tea. I'm half Puerto Rican. I like my women with a little substance, but she's an objectively attractive person. Exactly. Just like Jordan Sather is objectively attractive person, just like gals like Teal Swan are objectively attractive people. So in this world that we know is going a heck in a handbasket, where people getting in touch with real wisdom is more necessary than ever.
Yes.
At the thought of real wisdom, at the places where real wisdom used to come from, the human potential movement, the New Age spiritual movement, the occult movement, the mystic movement, okay, is now being placed upon us an entertainment style industry of looks, beauty, attraction, baubles, jewels, and gems.
Ego.
It's to imagine that this is what happened. We know that there was a certain point at which that Teresa and Eros was at a conference where Corey Goode was speaking, David Wilcock was speaking, Jimmy Church was of course present, and we need to talk about the revisionist history that goes on too, because let's not forget that before Corey Goode was lighting Jimmy Church on fire just with the same torch that he's trying to light Joe from the Carolinas, dark journalist and CW Chanter on fire, Corey Goode and Jimmy Church were buddies. They were tight as a mosquito's ass. Do you know what I mean? And at a point where there was a cancellation at a conference, Jimmy Church looks out of the audience and he's thinking, who's going to speak when this other speaker hasn't spoke, when this other person hasn't canceled? Is it going to be this person who's been coming to this conference for 25 years, who could even just simply get up and say, as a fan, I can give a retrospective analysis of where this conference has been and where this conference might be going? Is it an old person who's written 3 books to Teresa and Eros' 1? Books that may go back to 1968, 72, or 88, or wherever in between? No. Jimmy Church looks at the audience and says, what this audience of people, many of whom are far older than Teresa and Eros, we need to hear from Teresa and Eros. That is a movie move. That is an FM radio promo move that's got nothing to do with who's got real insight into the conspiracy and who's got real insight into mysticism and the beyond.
Let's remember where Jimmy Church comes from. He was a sportscaster. He was a jock.
Well, but even hold on. No.
Yes.
Wait. Hold on.
He's also an unattractive man. I heard he smells. I'm teasing, of course.
Well, okay. Well, honestly, no. I don't think he smells. But anyway, no. Jimmy is yes, he was a sportscaster, but he also was very heavily involved in Hollywood in the music industry back in the 80s.
Those are still not spiritual
I was going to say, that's like saying, hey. He may beat his wife, but don't forget he's also a compulsive gambler who lost all his children's money.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, damn it.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but let me get to this point. Give me about 2 minutes here. First of all, Jimmy is one of the most generous, authentic, genuine friends you could possibly have. He will spend his last penny. He will go in debt just to make sure that you have a shot that you can share.
Dude, we are not talking about a person's personality. We're talking about their work.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm getting.
There's the message and the messenger.
That's what I'm getting to is, so when it comes to Teresa Yanaros taking place of John Rappaport, I think this is just my guess. I don't know. But I'm assuming that at the time he did not realize that Teresa was part of the whole, what do you call it, Korinne? That whole group.
Corey's Kids, and that was coined by the dark journalist.
There's no way. There's no way he didn't know because hold on.
He knew. They all hung out together.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did know, but no, I'm talking about the other name, the blue chicken, whatever.
Blue Avians. Corey Good and the Blue Avians.
No, not that one.
Or the Blue Sphere Alliance.
The Sphere Alliance.
Corinne, you just told me it last night. The
Sphere Alliance.
No, the blue chicken thing.
Yeah, that's all hashtagged on Twitter.
But what's it called?
Well, it's Corey Good Sphere. Listen, hold on.
Anyway, okay. No. Hold on. All right. So I guess let me just finish my point, and then I will feel free to let you guys speculate on that. What I think is that because here's the thing. Not only did she fill in for Rappaport, or she was supposed to, and she did very briefly, but they spent a shitload of money building a whole fucking studio for her.
Right.
They built it from the ground up. And then within like 1 or 2 weeks, they just dropped her. They never said a word about it. They obviously found out something. And what I am suspecting, and this is just pure speculation, I could be talking out of my ass, don't believe anything I say, but maybe they found out that she was, being propped up by the same people that are propping up, Corey Good and Jordan Sather.
Listen. No, stop.
Chanter,
listen, I'm going to do this.
Chanter, do you know that Gigi has met Ramsar?
I believe it. I bet he charmed the fucking pants off you too, because that's what he does. Listen, God bless him. Everybody has strengths.
Let's understand. Hold on. Who is Ramsar? I don't even know who that is.
The history of these players is established and known, and it can be laid out in 10 minutes. And it's very simple. David Wilcock had a show on Gaia TV. He was given an assignment. Stop, because this is true information, and this is important.
Okay.
Okay, and I love you. I feel a very good, powerful energy from you, but there's another energy too, and that's you're trying to do too many things. You're trying to say one thing, but at the same time say 3 other things that are going to kind of cover it.
You're correct. Okay. Yes.
So that's something to look at, but that's fine, and that's a beautiful quality because it means you're trying to meet everybody's needs.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
But we can simplify it because I think what will simplify it is if we just look at the pieces on the chessboard and how they've moved in the most objective terms possible, we'll know and understand what happened. And I could do this. Since 2015 is when the story got started. David Wilcock was already an established character in this community, but he was already running into a problem because post-2012 and 2015, 3 years on from 2012, he already was gaining a reputation of saying and predicting these mass arrests, these things, and people were already saying, David, you told us that 2 years ago. You told us that 3 years ago. You told us that back in 1997, and it hasn't happened.
Right.
Things were starting to get a little bit fugazi.
Yeah.
He was. Well, hold on. You want inside information? I have inside information.
Let's hear it.
He was given an assignment by $1 million company called Gaia TV. Gaia TV was founded by a guy who got started. It's a simple business plan. They first started off with the health food industry. They noticed that health food industry was a thing. So you see things like Trader Joe's, you see things like Whole Foods. These things didn't happen organically. A scene was identified. A community of people who cared about health, fitness, and wellness was identified, and they were identified as an exploitable community.
Targeted individuals.
Gaia TV started off as a company called Gaiam, and they went from the health food industry right to yoga. And they were part of the mass commercialization of yoga. Forget about the Buddha, forget about the chakras, forget about namaste can stick around and a scented candle. And we're going to sell you a yoga mat for $29.95 in Walmart. Rather than have you go to a real teacher, we're going to tell you, no, you do your yoga at home in front of your TV, in front of your cable box. That was Gaiam. And they switched and they started with Gaiam TV and they started with yoga programming and Whole Foods programming. And then investigating this community where it was going, seeing things like ancient aliens, seeing things like the UFO conferences happening, the Human Potential Movement conferences happening. They tapped David Wilcock with an assignment. They said, find us one of these guys. And there were multiple people in the running, including Shane the Ruiner and including Corey Good.
Yes.
Corey Good came out with this amazing Fracasey story from Project Avalon, the Project Avalon forum. That was he started off as a simple, first it was just recovered, targeted individual, recovered information, recovered memories. Then it was the secret space, super soldier. Then it was secret space program. And then before you know it, as he taps into David Wilcock, who David Wilcock, since Jump Street, has been tied to the Law of One and the raw materials like a baby to a bottle. Remember, Corey Good David Wilcock started off trying all sorts of things to get involved. Time travel prank calls to Coast AM. And people know that David Wilcock, there's videos available on YouTube of him doing it, used to channel Ra, la the Law of One materials. Corey Good knew that David Wilcock loved this concept of the raw materials and the Law of One,
which comes from Don Elkins, who committed suicide.
So all Corey Good did was he took his story that was already developing, hooked it up to when he got tapped by David Wilcock. And I know, you want inside information? Corey Good kept calling people out of L.A. as he was having his first couple of meetings, bragging to people, just like a guy going out to Hollywood for to join the Boule. Oh, they're taking me out for sushi. They're taking me out to this place. They're taking me out to this night place. Whatever, sis, boom, ba. He gets on, and then they have this show called Cosmic Disclosure, where Corey Good starts spouting off to a group of people. As we said, it's an exploitable community. It was not members of communities in major metropolitan areas like San Francisco, LA, or New York, who were already integrated into communities that had already been discussing UFOlogy, conspiracy theory, etc., mysticism, etc., and beyond together. It was an exploitable community of people isolated in their homes in Boise, Idaho, in the middle of bumfuck whatever, tuned in to this paid cable network called Gaia TV, who eventually changed their name to Gaia TV, which is no mistake. All of a sudden, then there's that whole co-opting of the whole divine feminine, the whole earth energy, and the whole nature movement. So there you go. And it was David Wilcock and it was Corey Good working at Gaia TV with Jay Widener, and they tapped Jimmy Church, who was friends with David Wilcock already, and said, we got a good thing going here. Help us make this happen. And there was an agenda with at least a couple of $1 million behind it to take David Wilcock and Corey Good and shove Corey Good down everybody's fucking throat. Nobody asked for Corey Good to be at these conferences. No one demanded that Corey Good be at these conferences. They were told, just like the music industry saying, don't worry about the latest local band that you're listening to. We're going to tell you. It's New Kids on the Block. All the kids love New Kids on the Block.
Exactly.
You're a new kid. You love New Kids on the Block. All the girls love New Kids on the Block. Yeah. Every girl has her favorite Beatle. Every girl has her favorite new kid. So, but I'll do this real quick. Then, as the David Wilcock, Corey Good, Jimmy Church thing was happening, they started to attract hangers-on, like the Stillness in the Storm blog, Jordan Sather, and Teresa Llaneros, and Sabrina and Sterling, individuals who had their own little things, whether it be a WordPress blog or a YouTube channel, that were looking for something to do, and they were given jobs, and they became part of it. And before Teresa started working with Jimmy Church, she was already tapped by Gaia TV to start working with David Wilcock. Now, all of a sudden, what happens? Because of bad karma, because Corey Good, and no offense, Roger Ramsour stalked these conferences like bikers at Altamont, okay? Throwing people's weight around, knocking people around, okay? In many ways. Busted things up, acting like they own the place.
Saying that Linda Moulton Howe is with them.
They started to earn themselves a nice bad reputation.
I don't know if Linda Moulton Howe is with them.
Then what happened was, and I'll do it, it's going to wrap up at 2.5 minutes. David Wilcock knew that Corey Good was running out of steam. So he took Emery Smith, who was a hanger-on of Stephen Greer. He took Emery Smith and tried to put him into that driver's seat. Emery Smith folded. He freaked out. People can look at those videos and know that Emery Smith is up there in a veritable state of kind of shock and panic. He wasn't able to stay cool under pressure. That's not an effect. That's just a human quality that some people have. Corey Good, in response to David Wilcock trying to bring in Emery Smith, freaked out and did this whole thing where he was demanding, I think he was demanding more money of Gaia TV or whatever.
Correct.
So Gaia TV told Corey, says, take you and take your bully manager, both you guys, and stop coming here. Stop coming to the facility. You're not welcome here. You're not on Cosmic Disclosure anymore. At which point, who was the first guy to get doxxed? Emery Smith.
Wow.
Emery Smith was doxxed in the most savage way. His sexuality was put on the line. His drug habits were put on the line. Everything about this guy was put out in the open. Who put it out in the open? Fucking Corey Good did. You motherfucker. He did. Roger Ramsour did. Those are the guys that did it. Okay? And at that point, Jimmy Church knew shit was going fucking crazy. So Jimmy Church said, I'm not doing this anymore, because he knew that this thing was going to blow up. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Jimmy Church was on right before all this thing blew up with the David Wilcock resignation letter. It was like right after the David Wilcock resignation letter, and it was all this controversy was starting up. And he said, somebody's going to lose their job. Right?
Yes,
somebody's going to lose their career. He was talking about Corey Good. Okay? At which point, Jimmy Church went from Corey Good's best friend to another guy that Corey Good was slamming. And then, because this whole Blue Avian thing was spinning out, and because their show had all this stuff, and we're not even talking about the no SSPTM stuff. We're just talking about these simple players on the field. Teresa Neros, with the same energy that she joined up with Corey Good and Roger Ramsour, jumped ship like you wouldn't even believe.
We saw it happen.
We saw it happen in real time. So as the Blue Avian is falling out of the sky, feathers aflame, Teresa Neros all of a sudden, whoop, now she's talking to Joe from the Carolinas. Then she even appeared on my show with Joe from the Carolinas.
Yeah.
She knows how to make moves. And then Jimmy Church is building her that big fucking thing, replacing John Rappaport with Teresa Neros. No offense to Teresa. You're a human being with value. You're a human being with value. But to replace a guy like John Rappaport with Teresa Neros is like replacing like Walter Cronkite with Pia Zadora. You know what I mean? There's just no way you can justify.
Yeah, that's so true.
You can't say that when John Rappaport tells you that, when either you tell John Rappaport that he's got to go because of contractual reasons or whatever, or when John Rappaport tells you that he's got to go because of his own problems or he's getting older, you don't look around the field and say the only person more qualified to take this job, the next person like to take this job is Teresa Neros. Get the F out of town.
And I'd like to point out, they've known me now for 3 years, and they know I have a background and that I'm an expert.
And
listen, before I would get, how about this? Joseph P. Farrell, Richard Dolan, okay? There's Linda Moulton Howe herself. There's 1,000,003 people out here. Who was that association? Dr. What's his name? Jacobson, who used to work with John Mack. I mean, this community has elders. This community has statesmen and reporters.
Yeah.
But even Gigi knows that there's an agenda to get the young people on board.
Yeah,
sure
and real quick, can I cut in just for a second here?
Sorry, I apologize.
Thank you, Chanter.
A bit of a rant.
No, first of all, everything. That's exactly why I wanted to do this show, is because of everything you just said. I really did want that to get out there. Now, I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with any of it, but I am saying I like that information is getting out there. Now, I've got 3 points here. Give me like 5 minutes, okay? We're not even through the first hour. It seems like it's been like 5 hours, but we're not.
Chanter's a lawyer, man. He gets shit done.
Oh, yeah, no, he knows what he's fucking talking about. Now, so here's the thing. First of all, when it comes to Jimmy, obviously, I've known him since before he was a big deal, right? But now he's obviously, he's got a show on History Channel. He narrates Hangar One, or he did narrate Hangar One. He's one of the biggest guy. He's right up there with George Norrie. Now, but here's the difference between Jimmy and George is Jimmy genuinely, like, obviously he's playing ball, right? You have to play ball a little bit, but he tries to keep it as integrable as possible, which I have not seen anybody else on that level of stature do. So I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you reach that level of success, it's very hard to stay genuine, and I think he has done the best job of staying genuine at that level than anybody else in this industry has ever done. So let's put it that way. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have to, sign up for some other things that he would rather not.
Listen, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's frustrating because
you have two more points, Gigi.
Yeah, I do have two more points. And then the other one is, so that's just, my vouching for Jimmy. And then, of course, right. Rita goes right along with that. They're some of the best people I've ever known. They've helped me out more than anybody I can mention. So I have to say that. And I feel like I should say that because I really do believe that. But at the same time, so when it comes to, by the way, yeah, there's a lot of comments coming into the chat room. I'm not making sense of a lot of them, and at the same time, I can't read every comment. So I apologize if I'm ignoring the comments. But the other thing is with Teresa, the last time I saw her was at the what's it called? The Portal to Ascension conference, and she was, first of all, when she gave her lecture, like, she was a professional. Like, she really, like, it was as if she was born to do lectures. Like, she did
mesmerizing. We call it.
Yeah, mesmerizing, I guess you can say.
That's
but then the other part was, we literally, me and her and a couple of other attendees, we literally climbed up in a tree and smoked some herb sitting there in a tree, and it took the staff about 30 minutes to figure out that we were actually sitting up there in a tree before they kicked us out. But she was a really cool, down-to-earth person.
And you said she was completely different on stage and off stage, right, as if there was a switch.
Exactly.
And I think, look, I mean, here's the thing, though. When we get to this level of analysis, we have to be very careful, because what they want you to do is they want you to see them. And I'm not saying that these people aren't wonderful. I'm not saying that Jimmy Church isn't genuine. I'm not saying that Teresa Llaneros doesn't have a heart of gold and she's a sweetheart. But the point is this: all of that is fucking irrelevant.
Thank you.
It doesn't matter if they're nice people. It doesn't matter if they're genuine, or if you walk away after meeting them and think that they're a lovable, a wonderful schmote that you would love to have a beer with. It has nothing to do with anything. This is important information that's being discussed, and instead of being discussed as important information, it's being repackaged as a T-shirt, as a Gobelli Tepley hashtag, as a coffee mug, as a baseball cap, and as a join up and join the X-Files culture little thing.
And that's
bullshit.
Signed.
Yeah, and all of that is bullshit. It's all bullshit. If people really cared about this stuff, the agendas and all this stuff about, we wouldn't see these viewership games getting played. We wouldn't see these things taking place. You know what I mean? But we do see these things taking place and have to ask ourselves why. And can I tell you a dirty little secret?
Yes.
The dirty little secret is that the money's running out of this industry faster than anything. Because crystals, candles, books, DVDs, those are all bourgeois extra concerns, extra things you spend your money on. Donations, those are all extras that you spend money on after you've paid for your food, your water, your shelter, your weed, your beer, your whiskey, your gin, whatever your poison of choice is. The American economy is going the way to heck in a handbasket.
That's right.
People do not have the money to lay out on all these conferences. They don't have the money to lay out on all these Patreon or donations, all this stuff. And so we see the industry at its last gasp trying to assert itself one more time. It's starting to break down.
Yeah, it was like a housing bubble, Chanter.
Exactly. And just like a housing bubble, it happened all of a sudden. All of a sudden, Chanter and Joe from the Carolinas and dark journalists were hanging out at the periphery, fighting what seemed like an impossible battle. Yeah. That Corey Goode couldn't be touched, David Wilcock couldn't be touched because because the money was putting them in the echelon behind the velvet rope, and no one was allowed to ask tough questions at the conferences. No one was allowed to debate. Everything was shut down, and they were up on high. But guess what? Unsustainable systems are unsustainable. And just like the housing bubble in 2008, when things start unraveling real quick, they unravel real effing quick. And that's why we see all this confusion. And so what do you think happened to Teresa Yanneros? You think Jimmy Church fired her? He didn't fire her. She bolted. I heard she bolted. I
don't know.
I want to hear this. You don't know, Gigi. I want to hear what Chanter has to say.
Gigi, what do you know? Because let me say, listen, man to man.
I don't know anything.
If you know something about it, you should disclose it.
Yeah, no, I don't know anything. So.
Oh, so can I tell you
I just jumped in.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
I jumped in, and I'm gonna.
Oh, sorry. By the way, our associate producer Brad just chimed in. But hold on, Brad. Chanter was on quite a roll here, so let's.
No, I'm feeling him too. I'm all about it. So keep going, Chanter.
So I called it back in the day. I said about Corey Goode. I said when this whole thing falls apart, he's going to go back to the mainstream evangelical church. He started off in Bible college. That's where he's going to go back, and it's going to be fine. Because I saw him associated with QAnon. I saw them bigging up Trump, and I said, that's where they're going to go next. I said, they've run out of steam in the UFOlogy community, so they're going to try to follow Jordan Sather onto the QAnon trip, which was going to bring them closer and closer and closer to the evangelical element of the conspiracy theory and militia cultures, whatever you want to call them. And just like I thought it was going to be Corey Goode, but the first guy that bolted for the cross was David Wilcock.
Right. Yeah.
Who all of a sudden started identifying as Christian and saying, I'm basically, and then as he got kicked out of Gaia, went back with his letter of resignation that, oh my God, how the heck did that leak? That was leaked. David Wilcock lies like my daughters lie, and my daughters are 8 years old. Now, they're good liars because 8-year-old girls are exceptionally good liars, right? But if you're an adult, you can see this whole web
because you
being
expect
fun.
the truth out of them.
Yeah,
just like David, you expect the truth out of a self-claiming guy. But keep going, my brother.
Right. So anyway, so he bolted for the cross, and I saw him do it and everyone saw him do it. And then all of a sudden, Corey Goode was going around hither and yon, kind of trying to get this movie together. But that was everything had gone shambolic by that point. And we saw Teresa Yanneros, who had jumped the ship and gone to Jimmy Church. So what's the inside story that I heard? Now this is rumor and innuendo. This is just something that I heard. This is hearsay and should be clarified as such. I heard that she took a look around and she went back to either back to Catholicism or Christianity, because she's not doing any more content on YouTube.
There's no YouTube. Oh my!
No, she hasn't done a YouTube video in months, or like a week at least.
Yeah. Well,
you know what? I got to hand it to her. She actually went back to that. Hats off to her, because she knew that she couldn't handle this, you know?
But also, you don't understand. Vanity, Doreen Virtue, even Anne Rice all went back to Jesus. It's because they were always with Jesus. You've got to understand the deeper aspects.
Well, and of course, there's nothing wrong with Jesus. I mean,
of course not.
It depends on what angle you want to approach it.
It's about trying to be something you're not, and that is what this whole industry is doing.
Right. I think that's an excellent point, Brian. I would clarify and say, look, understand that I may say it with invective, I may say it with force and emotion, but a lot of the actions that I'm describing are things that people are free to do. Jimmy Church, if Jimmy Church wanted to come from the world of FM sports radio or the world of FM heavy metal radio and come over to Coast AM or come over to the scene and do and try and make $1.01, he's allowed to do that on planet Earth.
No, hold on.
All day, all night.
I have to stop
we have
you.
Standards in
I have to stop you right there. His interest in all this shit in this industry came back from living in Hollywood in the 80s. That's when he started reading books. That's when he got interested in this. Yeah, sure, he did the sports broadcasting after that, but he was already interested in this shit before he did Faded Black. And another thing, I really do.
He didn't even know.
Hold on.
He was involved in something that would create this, you know.
Yeah, honestly.
Back in the day.
I agree. Right? Yes, I agree with that. But at the same time, by the way, I just gave out the call-in number on the chat room. By the way, once again, I can't respond to all the chats all the time. But
So
Jimmy,
what about the rumors that rock and roll people sell their souls to Satan? What about that?
Well, it's pretty.
When are we going to talk about
Don't
the
hold
pineapple
rock and roll
people?
up as a paradigm of goodness.
Well, it's pretty
I've
preposterous.
never met
that,
anyone in rock and roll that has claimed that they have sold their soul.
Well, go on YouTube and watch them claim it for hours on end.
Well, let's.
Yeah,
I feel as
I'm
though.
not into
Listen,
that.
you know what?
Just
you know what
because
I
they claim
if
it,
you go into rock and roll as a general.
Can I
subject,
talk
the rock
for
and
a
roll
second?
Yeah. But let's just try and keep some focus. I mean, no, and that's not towards you. I think that you know what I mean. Let's not go into rock and roll.
But the whole point I was going to
I
make
listened
just
to Van
got
Halen
lost.
all day today, and I felt great.
Can I make a
Van
point?
Halen, Van Allen, Belts, and Valhalla. Figure it
Yeah,
out.
we
It's a
all
code.
know that. Yes, absolutely.
All I know
The
is it sounds
monkey.
great.
It's get you to believe in evolution. Okay. Monkeys, get it? They're monks, and they have the key to unlock your heart for Satan. The monkeys.
Wow. That's deep. I don't think anyone really is getting that, but that's deep.
There you
No,
go.
I hear you.
Well,
no,
I
that's-
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
feeling it.
But what I was going
12
to say,
monkeys, dude.
That's it.
you know,
100
is
monkey theory. Hello. Yeah.
Thank you.
well,
No,
The
what?
but-
monkeys on the other island have sold their souls to Satan.
Ta-da.
Whose show is
Here to
this?
have-
Is this my show?
mission
Through
right
the
here,
looking glass
right
here.
now, is to have
But
fun.
this does go back to Gaia, and it does go
Whatever
back
matters.
to
It does go back to Gaia, and
David
I was
Wilcock
going to
said
say,
they were all Satanists.
if there was any
He said
chance
that,
that I
didn't he?
could speak on my own show, I would say that, I would
hey,
say
Gigi,
that.
let me bring Gigi in. Hey, Gigi.
Yeah, by the way, I'm the host of this show, in case anybody forgot. Yeah, so my aunt, Aunt Judy, or Julie, as she's called, we did have her on an episode about a year ago, but anyway, she was a very devout David Wilcock follower until the Gaia TV thing started happening. Right away, she called me immediately and said, like, listen, David Wilcock has been compromised.
She was hip to it.
Yeah, no,
See?
she knew it right away. And but at the same time, I think David's quitting of Gaia it should be, and I think it is, pretty significant. The fact that because think about how much benefits that he gave up by quitting Gaia. He didn't just do that for no reason at all. He really felt that he did not want to be a part of that organization.
It was a chess move.
Which,
it had nothing to do with personal feelings.
And
This was business.
also, yeah,
okay,
and Gigi, I don't want to interrupt you, but I have to because
well,
real
you
quick,
already did.
and of course I'll make it quick. Dude, maybe it'll be long. But anyways, look, dude, maybe David Wilcock had to happen
Yes.
to realize where things are at and where they're going.
Well, that's what I'm
now
saying.
we go back to Providence, fate,
That's
destiny,
what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Meant to be.
Because I'm not. David's cool, but trust me, dude. There's a part of me that, to be honest, I feel like he's a douchebag.
Well, let's talk about people's
I don't know.
personalities.
He's actually pretty cool if you hang out with him.
Yeah,
Those are real.
I'm just saying in general. And so what it comes down to is, look, okay, we all know what's up. There's got to be little drips. He's another drip, dude, and I hate to use that term, And we can't all look into him like he's going to bring prophecy, or I'm not saying we do anyways, but I'm just saying
he told me he no longer has vision.
Hold on.
That he leaves visions to Corey Good.
David Wilcock is smart enough to know that the things that he's saying are not true.
Yeah.
David Wilcock is smart enough to know that guys like Benjamin Fulford and Pete Peterson are not legitimate whistleblowers with insider information, whether they're saying that's insider information coming from 33 levels above the Yakuza or 33 levels above the President of the United States.
Yes,
David Wilcock is a chancer and romancer in a scene where David Wilcock.
I agree.
But it is he is who he is, and it is what it is. But it's emblematic of the entire of the industry model. As a human, he's not perfect. No.
He's not perfect as a human, and I think he had his little time, and he got caught up in it.
Hold on.
He didn't know where to go next. I think he just he was in the whirlwind.
Hold on.
I don't think he knew how big this would be until he got in it. All right, sorry, Gigi.
We need a talking
I just had to jump in.
Is it really this?
It's just a whirlwind.
Is it really this hard to have the host say "hold on"? All right, so I think along with my aunt, who I just mentioned, I think he was on a genuine path until
one of these days.
Until the whole Gaia thing. Once he signed up with Gaia, and that's my point.
His endorsement of people.
Let me get in right
David
there.
David Wilcock scammed little old ladies out of $10,000 with David Keenan. He scams people, he takes money, and if he wants to sue me about it, that's fine. I have enough evidence to turn him into the FBI for mail fraud for the Pete Peterson affair, and it's already known that he, along with David Keenan, work in that White Dragon scene. Remember that whole thing where he was crying on talking to Carrie Cassidy, the White Dragon Society is going to come kill him? While he was doing that White Dragon scene, they were taking money, they were taking donations, and David Keenan is only checking into YouTube and Facebook every once in a while from Singapore or from Hong Kong or from over here or over there because he can't set foot in the United States of America again because he's going to be fucking nabbed. Okay? David Wilcock scams people. He's a scammer. He tells people lies for a living. That's what he does.
I think he might have.
Now might I get in here?
I think he does now, but he did not used to.
I was just saying real quick, and it'll be one sentence. I think he jumped into this genre. He got way more attention than he expected. Got a lot of money, and as of course, the money will corrupt you. So there you are.
For what it's worth, I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I couldn't disagree more. David Wilcock has had an agenda from Jump Street to be a rock star, to be famous, to have accolades, and to have moolah, to have a California white wine lifestyle. That's what he's always been about, and that's what he's always striven for, and that's what he's always strove for. And that's just what my take on it, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. We're all,
honestly, I don't.
Let the occult priestess talk,
I think.
All right, let's hear the occult. Come on, bring it in.
I very much think that is the case now, but going back to '99 when he first started, I don't think that's.
He started in '90. He's '99. He started in '95.
Right.
I've known about David Wilcock. Listen, I've known about David Wilcock since we were all watching reruns when we were buying our X-Files on VHS tape.
That's right, Chanter.
Okay? This dude's been around since Christ was a child. Okay, he's a contemporary of man.
But
this dude did not,
my point is that he wasn't always a sellout. I think at first he was genuine, but now he is a sellout. I don't know. That's my.
Hey gentlemen, real quick.
Sorry. I apologize because I know that last one was a little bit tart.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. But hold on, Brad has something to say.
What you got to say? Let's hear you.
No.
All right. So, David Wilcock. I am Korinne Wilson, and we've had a contract together, and I've been sent here to heal him. And when the Gaia thing happened, I won. So, God sent me here, and this is bigger than just this small pictures of people arguing and little rumors and crap. This is soul stuff. This is reincarnation. These are people we worked with before. So my point.
I totally forgot about the Edgar Casey. Don't forget about the Edgar Casey reincarnation. After which he had Winfrey write a book. Winfrey stated, who was an elder in this community, put his entire reputation on the line to say that to ratify David Wilcock's theory that David Wilcock was the reincarnation of Edgar Casey. When David Wilcock started to be mocked about that, guess who got thrown under the bus? Winfrey.
But isn't it it's kind of interesting that the teeth models actually match up specifically? Isn't that kind of at least interesting?
No, there's no extant models or pressings of David Wilcock's teeth compared to Edgar Casey's teeth. It's all look at this photo of Edgar Casey at this angle. Doesn't it look like me? If that's evidence for reincarnation, I guess I'm fucking Jesus when I've got a beard on. You know what I mean? Like,
all right, so I'm going to go back into my point.
Yeah, forget about that.
All right,
let's
listen to Korinne.
My actual spirituality.
All right, let's go back to Korinne.
Is Egyptian. Ra is my main god. So I looked into the raw material, and I looked into who started it, Don Elkins. And before he did the raw material, he did a film called something like Women from Mars. And in this film, it is a high magic ritual from the Golden Dawn and Aleister Crowley with all of the angelic writing all over it. And it is basically, in my opinion, satanic. People who are in the Golden Dawn might not think they're satanic, whatever. That's my opinion. But I'm telling you it's high magic. And I'm telling you I know the source of the raw material, and that is incorrect, especially since the man who did the raw material killed himself. These are all people who have been in the military and who are shills. These are the men who stare at New Agers. So men who stare at goats is real, and we have been infiltrated by them. And it's a darker agenda. So I agree with Wilcock when he said threw them all under the bus at Gaia, because I've met Gaia executives, one in particular, and he loves grays. And that's the angle I'm coming from. I'm coming from the fourth dimension, which no one speaks of, the ghost realm, the bardo, where we go when we dream. Everyone's up in 5D. And I think Judas even said this in Jesus Christ Superstar. Everyone's got heaven on their minds. And they're not worried about hell, but that's what's coming to Earth.
Right.
And I just
Earth is hell,
between,
basically.
Hey,
you know that, freaking break it down.
I just want to say CW Chanter, Corinne's Corinne, and God bless you. You know what
we need a show together, Chanter.
Oh God, we need to
agree.
Debate because we'll fight.
You guys would be like the perfect lawyer freaking debate team back when I was a kid.
Anyways, I'd love you guys to hear me on Friday night on this show, this Friday, when I will be coming up about what super soldiers from Mars actually are. The actual truth. No one has ever said it before.
That is happening this Friday, by the way, on our official Shift Happens show. Korinne will be the guest coming up this Friday. So anyway,
and Course in Miracles was also set up by the CIA. I'm sorry for all the hearts that are breaking, but please do your research. CIA, keyword Course in Miracles.
Well, let's get back on the David Wilcock thing.
Well, I'm just saying, raw material is out the door. It's all crap.
Well,
I agree.
I'm just going to state just a point of clarification so that people don't get confused. My attitude about it is there's a much more pragmatic and practical explanation for it. Not that I disagree with Korinne that Don Elkins and all the players behind the scene. And if you look at the people that did the young lady who did A Course in Miracles. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, listen, I love Satan. I have no problem with Satan. You know what I mean? My attitude about all these things is heavy metal records are cool. I believe that people believe what they believe, and that's fine.
I think Satan has a bad rap.
Is that it's a much more pragmatic thing to do. These are human beings involved in human being games, okay? And even, that's just to make a distinction between my perspective and point of view on it and the perspective and point of view of other panelists.
Do you think you might be alien in touch? Because I like the way you're able to separate. Like, you might have been abducted, or maybe you're like, got some secret stuff.
You are all abductees, I promise you.
You know what I'm saying, my brother? I love it.
I would have stuck around. I would have stayed on the ship. Abductee. I would have been an abductee till I was a kickoff, because they're like, we don't want to hang out with this guy. He likes the probe a little too much.
I just want to quote.
I've never seen anyone ask for seconds.
Terrence McKenna said, "Bitches don't know their minds," and that's where I'm coming from.
Have you ever seriously got deep down? Like, what the heck, dude? I get so deep down in this stuff. Like, why have I been abducted? This and that. Do I have a weird implant? I look around on my back, looking. I got this one little freaking bump on my back. What the fuck?
You need a reading from me. I can figure that stuff out for you.
I can figure that shit out for you right now. You're not an abductee. You're just a human being on planet Earth that's interested in what human beings are interested in. Human beings have been interested before they were aliens. They were angels. Okay.
Thank you.
We are just.
We're still angels, brother.
It's just a fashion change, you all.
Yeah. Listen, all we are doing is and this is ourselves included. We are involved in the same energetic interaction as these other people that we're describing from a remote. We're human beings playing the human being game, okay? In the middle of our spiritual quests and adventures, there's also the need to get other needs met, whether the needs are basic lust, whether it's the lust for fame or for money.
Those are ego desires.
Yeah, ego desires. So my question was, C-Dub, real quick, do you have any remembrance of any kind of lost time back in the day? I know it sounds funny. I'm asking you this because you're a solid dude. But any have you ever seen any trippy shit in the sky, dude? Break it down. Have you ever had a paranormal experience? I want to hear, because you're a factual dude. You know what I mean? So, I don't want to break your freaking combine.
So I'll tell No, this is fine. I can tell a story. I can tell you guys a story that I've told.
I want to hear your best story.
All right, let's hear it.
This is a very good story for what we're talking about.
All right,
and it's a story that I guarantee you're going to see Korinne. You're going to hear Korinne literally fall off the chair, dying to give a response, and it's with a reaction.
I can't wait.
All my life, I can tell you this: nothing struck terror in my heart like this. Like when I first saw the cover of Whitley Strieber's book Communion. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in a mall with my grandmother down in Florida, and it must have been like a B. Dalton, and they had it was when it first came out. They had racks and racks of, you know how they when there's a new release, they set up 10,000 copies.
Oh yeah,
like a dome or whatever.
It's like if you're store shopping, it's in the front window. It's
there, right? Yeah. So it was that, but it was that alien face, that gray alien face. I stopped, I froze, and it was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. It instantly took my fear of the Elephant Man and threw it out the window. Anyway, so here's the point. Since that point, every time a show about aliens or anything would show up on the TV, okay, I would flip. I would not be able to turn it off, but I would be held in a state of abject terror and wouldn't be able to turn the lights off that day. I had missing time, and for a long time I was telling my mom, I said, I have these instances of missing time, things like I got into my car to go from point A to point B. I don't remember stopping at any point. If I had stayed on course and traveled at the normal rate of speed, the trip should have taken me 45 minutes. Why did C.W. Chanter show up 2 hours and 15 minutes later, swearing to God, including himself, that he just drove? No, so here's what happened. So check this out. I'm watching the X-Files. It had to have been 1997, whatever. And I'm having Chinese food with my mom, and we're watching the X-Files on a Sunday night, as we like to do. My brother, I think, was somewhere in the... No, check this out. Here's where it goes.
Are you serious?
I'm going to tell you the story, and you're going to make of it
cool,
what you will.
Man.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the story, and you're going to make of it what you will. I forget how the episode was tied to gray aliens, or if it was just a subject that was like X-Files-y, so we were talking about it. But I told my mom, I said, Mom, I told her about missing time and these things about aliens. And at this time, I was a bit of a true believer. And I said to her, I said, Mom, I've got these memories, these vague memories of these entities, and like it's like the big eyes, and it's all this stuff, and they're all uniform color, and I'm on the surgery table, and it's terrifying.
That much detail, dude. Wow.
Check this out. So she turns to me and she says, well, Ben, she goes, remember, when you were about 4 years old, you had to go in to have surgery because I had a lung infection called emphysema. It's a form of pneumonia that almost only homeless people get. It's interesting that a rich white kid from the suburbs got it. But anyway, I went in and she told me, she goes like this. She goes, Ben, she goes, isn't it a possibility that these memories you have are really memories that you're kind of confabulating or putting together based on this experience of having gone in and had this surgery when you were a child. This is what I did at that moment. I told the story before, but it's very important that I continue to conclusion. I said, that's interesting. I got up from the dinner table. I went upstairs. I went to my room. I never do this. I turned my back to my bed and I flopped down on my back on my bed, just fell down on my bed and immediately had total straight line recall of the entire incident of me going in for surgery when I was a child. And since that moment, I have never worried about gray aliens, their existence, or them fucking me up at any point in my life ever since.
See, Deb, what was your surgery procedure again? Sorry,
I had a lung surgery. I had a lung surgery.
That's right.
They had to open me up and drain my lung because it wasn't responsive.
Your whole lead up to that reminded me of something that I went through. I mean, as well, which was a trip, dude. Now I'm tripping. But anyways, I don't even want to go there right now. Yeah, dude. Fuck, dude. So that's gnarly. So that's your, there's some shit going down then.
But that's my demystification of it. What I know is going down is that there's the mind is a powerful thing. When people tell me about their experiences, though I'm a pragmaticist who believes that the realm of the spiritual and metaphysical resides in the spiritual and metaphysical realms, and here we are on planet Earth, I would never say to a person who had a terrifying UFO alien abduction experience, you didn't experience that. The question is not whether or not they experienced it. The question is, what did they experience? Was it a psychological reaction?
Exactly.
Was it a hallucination?
Was it a cover memory?
Was it whatever? I don't know what it is, but I don't try to delegitimize people's experiences. But at the same time, I just want to say one thing. If you hear people who have been who don't go to conferences to get paid money to speak, who are not Alex Collier, not Corey Good, and not what's his face, Billy Meyer. When you talk to people, thousands of people across the United States who, as we speak, are members of UFO abductee support groups, targeted individual support groups, when these people talk, they do not tell you funny Hollywood stories that get them conference gigs and money. Yeah. They tell terrifying stories. For sure. They are shaken up. They are broken individuals because of it, and they are not left with Hollywood members like Travis Walton, who started off when the 80s when the aliens were bad, his aliens were bad, and in the 90s when the aliens were good, all of a sudden Travis Walton is reevaluating his experience and saying it's okay what they did to him. Everything happens for a reason. Just like Whitley Strieber. Communion starts off in the 80s. It's all John Mack. It's all alien paranoia. The Greys are going to come, and they're going to fuck you in the ass. That's what the Greys did. They pick you up, they fuck you in the ass, and they scare the shit out of you, and then you're left there.
And they kill your cows.
They kill your cows. Now, just like Travis Walton, Whitley Strieber is still on all the time on his podcast. But guess what? His latest books don't say, "Oh my God, I was abducted by an alien." It says, "I was part of a mystery school, and since I was a child, and everything happens for a reason."
That's explosive.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all good. Don't worry. Even Linda Moulton Howe.
Let's not believe that all aliens are good. Hell no, dude.
This is all about the New World Order.
That's it. It's all about relax. Everything's going to be okay. You don't need to worry about the environment. And guess what? Donald Trump is the ascension president, according to David Wilcock and Corey Good. Remember that? Don't fight Donald Trump, the money billionaire pussy grabber. Don't think of him as being a bad, nefarious character. Think of him as being part of the alliance.
Hey, C-Dub, let me hop in. Let me hop in real quick, C-Dub. I don't know if you saw that, Korinne, but I posted today on Twitter the Trump, analogy that's gone back. There was a book that was written over 100 years ago saying Baron Trump.
Baron Trump. Yeah, he's Biff from Back to the Future.
And all this nar stuff, dude. And I'm tripping. Like, I already knew stuff was planned out, but not for this kook. Like, I am tripping, dude. This guy's
That's
a
what you don't
kook.
understand. You think
no one has seen the physical copy of the Baron book. This is all stories and conjectures. There was a book written in the 1800s, and there was a guy called Baron Trump. Yeah. No offense, Trump is a last name. There are Trumps all over the world, and some of them are named Baron, or some of them could be Baron Trump.
But there's a character named Lockwood. Do you remember hearing of Lockwood? Eisner or Lockwood, I think was his name.
Right.
And he actually wrote the book about the future, and it was just kind of too synchronicity and just too many connections. It was kind of creepy. And
you're looking at it from a third dimensional perspective, and that's your problem. This is a fourth dimensional situation, and there are creatures above the scene working us like puppets.
Well, or we believe that there are, and our belief in them makes them real.
I don't have to believe. I have gnosis. I know this.
I know how blatant the evidence is.
But I love you.
The blatant evidence is right there in your face, and it's we don't have to be super ascended or smart anymore. It's freaking right there, dude. And that's what I love about this new generation, especially my son. He's 11. He's so hip. He knows what's cracking. And anyways. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, as the mystery schools, the mystery schools have been infiltrated. You know this. So every teaching out there, it's grain of salt, at least. So the only place to really get the true information is through your meditations. But if you are stuck in the fourth dimension and can't get to the fifth, then you're going to be messed with.
Yeah, that's where the ganja helps me. I'm able to really break off from my job and just society, and because I live in the city and whatnot, and dude, I smoked the ganj right after work. I wasn't allowed to do it before I got this job because I had to take a drug test, and I was just so confused. And I started smoking herb again. I'm just so at peace,
Well, Bob Marley said.
No. But listen, hold on. Alternative theory that you want to watch out for, because I was in love with marijuana too until I realized it was destroying my life.
I'm not in love with it.
No. I hear you. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I don't use it.
I'm not accusing you of anything, but the one thing we need to be aware of, the one thing about marijuana is this. And a lot of the infiltration of if you listen to guys like Jan Irving, they will tell you that one of the greatest things that the FBI did, who spread all the drugs around?
Was
FBI,
it the dirty little rock and roll hippies?
Absolutely not. It was the powers that be. It was the FBI and the CIA that spread the drugs around. Who brought?
But they didn't. They just gave it to the society and they spread it around. They just dumped it. Here's the shit. Let's see what you got going.
Here's the thing about marijuana. Just like you said, it has an effect. And I'm not saying that you abuse it. But for a lot of people, what marijuana does is it makes the unacceptable acceptable. It makes GMO, shitty food taste like a three-course meal. You'll tear into it. It'll make shit-ass music sound amazing. That's what marijuana does.
No, I actually agree. I agree.
All of a sudden, they want to legalize weed all over the place, right? They allow. Here's the thing: you can believe that Donald Trump represents this brand new break with the system. That all these other presidents were all chosen by the Illuminati and the Bilderbergs and the Trilateral, but not Trump. Or you could accept the fact that they just like we were talking about the CIA and the NSA being at these conferences. They know what the memes are. They're at the Black Lives Matter conferences. They're at the Occupy movement conferences. They know, and they do it. And you know what they do? They study what people say. They say
what's the connection on the herb though?
So here's the connection on the herb. The connection on the herb is the following. Some people, like Kathy O'Brien says and suggests that marijuana breaks mind control and breaks the hypnotic spell.
I have to stop you right there.
It does on a lot of people that aren't strong enough, like people that don't have open. You can't just smoke weed with a closed mind.
Tony Sokol was the one who told Catherine that Tony Sokol said to her that it broke programming, and he 100 million times. He's a writer, Tony Sokol. So that came from him originally, and then she picked it up.
Well, that's like, I mean, again, like the Kathy O'Brien story is like these things, like, you know what I mean? Let's take a legitimate field like mind control and stuff, and let's turn it into a Hollywood fantasy, monarch mind programming, but let's blow it all out of proportion so that when people hear about MK Ultra and monarch mind control, they think about Kathy O'Brien and Bob Hope gangbangs rather than thinking about CIA LSD programs in prisons.
But she does cover that, and she covers the child rape situations too.
That's what they do. Listen, all you have to do if you want to be listen, this is why I have if people don't know, if you want to learn how to do what these people do, if you want to be a player in this field, it's very simple. You roll in C.W. Chanter's Secret Space Program Whistleblower School, and I tell you all the secrets about how to do this. And one of the secrets is you take reality, you take 50% reality, and you use it as the framework for your particular bullshit. So Donald Trump is the president of the United States, so you work him into the narrative. If you're talking about the alliance, all of a sudden people are saying that Donald Trump is some big revolutionary. All of a sudden he's a revolutionary, and you know he's a revolutionary. You ratify that, and you tell him he's a revolutionary for your side too.
It's black magic.
It's black magic.
Exactly.
The first magical spell that a child learns, and the first magical spell, just like the fool turning into the magician. You start off as a child. Once you learn the first magical spell, you are on your path towards the light or to the dark.
That's right.
And the first magical spell is the knowledge of how to lie. How to turn to your mom and say,
I remember that.
Disagree.
That's a fact.
The
first magical.
Oh, I remember being a child.
You
with
cannot
that power.
on this. Hold on.
I disagree. Maybe in a percentage factor, but I mean,
it's our first defense mechanism, Bradley.
The first magical spell is the child's lie, and I'll explain to you why. The lie is the attempt to make change happen in accordance with one's will. Who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? It was the little kid. If the little kid is discovered to have taken the cookie from the cookie jar, the little kid is going to be in trouble. The reality of the situation is that the child has broken the rule, the child is in trouble, but the child doesn't want to be in trouble, so he lies. It was the dog. It was the cat. Santa Claus came in and took the cookie. If the lie works or it doesn't work, the spell has still been cast. And once the child learns the power of the spell, they can do one thing. They can become enamored of it and its power and follow it. Their egos need to break, or they can respect it.
That's not a true spell, though.
It is. He's a genius. Listen to him.
No, it's not. It's not.
How is it not a true spell? How is it not a true spell?
A true spell needs to be written. A true spell needs to be written.
Listen, by your definition, if a spell needs to be written, that would mean that spellcraft required an idiomatic language-based culture to start working. No.
Spells are the crucible of magic in your mind.
You just said it yourself. You said it yourself.
What do you mean?
It needs to be written.
No, I'm disagreeing with you. It doesn't need to be written.
The crucible of magic is within the mind. Every occultist knows that.
It's making change happen in accordance with one's will. It's taking reality and with the power of your mind, changing that reality. If you can get mom to accept the fact that cousin JoJo took the cookie or something else happened to the cookie or it was dad, you have cast a spell. You have
spell means to write. Spell, the actual term of spell.
No, that's that bullshit. Like they call the bottom of your foot the sole of your foot, so they could walk around on the sole of your foot. So they teach you to abuse your soul.
And I could say it's not. So I mean,
yeah, but I'm right.
Who knows, really?
Every time you have an orgasm and you're thinking of something, you're doing a spell.
It needs to be written though. That's
no,
all
it does.
You are incorrect.
You're incorrect. You're outvoted.
Okay, well, I respect your I respect your.
It's not an opinion.
Insight.
It's the truth.
It's not an opinion. It's a fact.
For it to really last, for that spell to work and last,
how many
it may
spells
last
have you
for
done,
that
Bradley?
night, but it ain't gonna last until you write it down.
That's
why they call it. That's why they call it spelling. Have you ever heard of that word spelling?
Listen, hold on. Excuse me. In Japanese,
no, bring it back. No.
In Japanese,
spelling
you do not
means
spell.
Writing out.
No, this is not true. Listen, the word spelling is an English language word. The word spelling does not exist in kanji. It doesn't exist in Chinese ideograms. It doesn't exist in Cyrillic. I mean, the notion that the spell means speller, you have to spell it out. That's that Freeman fly, the pyramid on the Exxon. Okay, now here I'm.
All right, C-Dub, you passed the test. I just wanted to make sure.
The ghost of Jordan make sure you knew. Show up.
I want to make sure you guys knew. You guys passed. All right, let's keep rolling.
There you go.
Right?
No, hey,
that's how it goes.
I forget. Yeah, believe you me, that's how it goes. And so here we are, alive on planet Earth, trying to figure out what's going on, having these conversations, having these debates. But this is great because you know what? This is the paradigm. This is the new eon. This is the new paradigm that's going to take this Hollywood entertainment industry bullshit and throw it in the garbage. And I'll tell you why. Because nobody in 2019, you do not need to go to Corey Good's conference or David Will conference and pay money to hear a contactee, an experiencer, a psychic, a magician, a sage, a shaman.
You can go to David Wilcock if you want to be entertained. You know, he's a great entertainer. He's great. On stage, like, he's kind of good looking. He dresses well. He probably smells good. Well? He probably smells good. I haven't been that close.
The only one with the more
all I gotta say is, like, good for him. He's making his money. I'm stoked for him. You know,
I'm going to buy stock in that one blue shirt.
Bradley, if his finances matter to you, then you know he's not a teacher. I don't understand why you look up to someone who's not a teacher.
Well, for one, I never said I looked up to him.
It's just a materialistic point of view.
I'm using him as an example right now, just to see where you guys are going. That's the funnest part of it.
Well, that's not really success, how much money you have.
No, it isn't. What it is like, you know, he's actually, in his early game, I got to say, you know, he reached out to a lot of people and liked people and got people on the right path of, like, you know, looking and searching out, not saying they're going to be like, you know, you're Jesus Christ.
Right, just like David Wilcock tells us amazing things about bloodlines and bloodline curses. David Wilcock,
there's always something to learn with
We never talk about David Wilcock. David Icke. We never talk about David Icke.
To me, David Icke is the shit. Like,
he is the shit. He should get more press.
I sat
through a 13-hour
freaking lecture with that guy, and honestly, besides my ass burning because sitting down so long, I was so stoked to be there. The dude was like on fire, you know. And
to know about the history of bloodlines blew my mind.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean,
so
I
you
can't
guys
even go
know.
there right now.
Actually, I'm going to talk about this Friday, but
Can we get Eric Awakening Man on?
Yeah, let's bring E-Rock on.
No,
I am the grand niece.
Let me text him right now.
Yeah,
you guys know I'm related to Senator John Glenn.
No, he cannot make it. Sorry.
You know what? I found out I'm related to Brigham Young, and my grandpa worked for Howard Hughes and went to Big Rock.
Bloodlines have a lot to do with this when you get into the fourth dimension.
All right.
Yeah, I'm tripping. But anyways, long story short, C-Dub, dude. You're not talking. Holy shit.
I was trying to give other people, but here's what I want. There's this point that we need to, that I want to make about this, is that you often hear this. People will talk about the problems with Alex Jones, David Wilcock, or David Icke, and they'll say, but at least he did X, Y, or Z. I can understand that logic, but I was just, it's so funny. Talk about synchronicities. I was thinking about this today. You know, in the Jewish community, I can tell you that there are many people who understand.
You're not Jewish, of course.
Yeah, I am. I'm half. Well, I was raised
I'm
Jewish,
just joking.
So anyway, but whatever. But I mean, look, I'm Jewish by ethnicity, not by faith. But it is what it is. Anyway, thank you, Liam. So let's do this. Let's understand this. There are some people within the Jewish community, when confronted with the philosophical, theological, and epistemological question of how can we believe in God, and hold on,
we've got a caller.
The Jews are God. Stop. That the Jews are God's chosen people if the Holocaust happened, and people will say, okay, Adolf Hitler made the Holocaust happen, but because the Holocaust happened, that's why the state of Israel was reformed, and that was a confirmation and reaffirmation of God's divine plan. God works in mysterious ways. Adolf Hitler was part of the solution, not part of the problem. And there are some people that will say that's a horrendous and horrible ethical thing to do, to apologize this man for the historical record and to normalize his behavior and to say, oh, it was all part of a pattern. Now, pattern seeking and explanation. Where I stand is this: faith and spirituality and religion are used by people to survive in a complex, hard to understand world.
I agree.
Here's what I believe.
It's very complex.
I believe
very complex.
The God that acts in our lives is the God that we believe.
Yeah. By the way, we do have a call in here.
Such Jasmine's in there too. I got fans in the live chat.
Shout out to Lisa and Susan.
Who is this Babylon goddess? Who's this person?
Eric.
Oh, Babylon rocks.
Eric has just called.
Yeah, there you
go. Queen Bee.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Where you been, Queen Bee?
What?
Queen Bee can chat an ear off. She's very intelligent, I must say.
I'll be releasing a new video tonight on YouTube and Vimeo, Occult Priestess, and it's going to be a mind blower. And it is about the secret space program.
Sweet. What
and
you got
Stanley
going on
Kubrick.
Here we go. Now, it's so crazy. So here we are in a world where people are going to point to various other people, and Jay Widener is going to point to David Wilcock. David Wilcock is going to point his finger back to Jay Widener. They're all going to point their finger at Michael Salla and Corey Good. Corey Good's going to talk trash about Alfred Lambermont Weber. Alfred Lambermont Weber is going to throw Richard Dolan under the bus. And meanwhile, we're all talking about the same crazy, kooky things. I mean, it's a funny little interesting world that we occupy. Funny
it's the
world.
Most interesting fringe group I've found.
Right. But believe you me, in the world where InfoWars is the new war, the new war is not going to be fought with bullets and guns. There's no point. You don't want infrastructure damage, especially when infrastructure damage in the day and age of nuclear reactors is far different.
This is disclosure, baby. Right here at its finest.
Disclosure comes from within.
No, this is it. This is it right here. Like all these little tidbits that we're dropping. Like there might be a sentence that no one's heard of before, and it resonates, and it drops in, and then the collective gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not going to be a White House, that, C-Dub,
CW knows about Shaktipat and the Darshan.
It ain't going to be no White House like, hey, we had a freaking UFO land out here. No, it ain't going to be like that. We all know that. It's all about this. We are. We are.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm in concordance with you there because, like I said, this is the new paradigm. This is what's good. It's people really having real community, but we need to be wary of gatekeepers, hierarchy, and leaders.
Like egos. Just be careful of egos.
Honestly, I'll be honest with you, C-Dub. Like, when I first saw you coming out, I'll be honest, you talk a lot of crap here and there, and that's good. You're speaking your mind. No, I'm just saying, you're speaking your mind. That's good. You ain't afraid to say what you're thinking, And
Thank God
I dig
for people
that.
like
And
Chanter.
I really, you know what I mean? I fucking appreciate you, dude. You're not all like censored and like, all worried about sponsors and this and that and your future. You're just like, dude, I'm breaking it off, And we need guys like you to keep everyone in check. You're like our checks and balance guy, when we go to the bank. And we're like, fuck, all right, I only did this much deposit. Oh, shit. C-Dub needs more. Fuck. No, I'm just joking. But anyways, long story short, dude, like really on the real, dude, you know, you're aggressive. I love it. And you're pushing it. And hey, nothing but love to you, brother. You know, you're doing a good thing.
CW, why do you care about the community so much? Why do you love us so much?
Well, because this is the community that's my community of heart. When I identify my spiritual space, I consider myself a member of the New Age diaspora. That's strange.
All right, he said he has a spirit, ladies and gentlemen. He does.
That's strange, amalgamated culture of various themes and dominions, new information, ancient wisdom coming together, swimming together, and people engaging in an act of collective myth-making that's not religion and dogma coming from up on high, down below, but rather is born of an acceptance of everybody's belief, being everybody's belief in everybody's individual belief system. If it works for them, is getting them to the right place, is being acceptable and normative and okay and beautiful in its way. So that's why I care about this community.
And a lot of exploration too.
Because in this realm, the real problem is this. Just like in Christianity, you can know and understand the message of Jesus Christ and concentrate on the heart of Jesus Christ, or you can the notion of being able to be ascend from a lower state to a higher state. You can understand that as the meaning of Christianity, or you can understand Christianity as an exclusionary demarcation and dogma that says these people are going to go to heaven, and because these people said the wrong words, they're going to go to hell.
I
same way,
real quick?
Yeah. I just want to say that one of the, you mentioned David Icke. I just want to say that one of the things that I do speak out against is this. Too much love is too much love. Too much hate is too much hate. There's a lot of black dogma that's floating out of guys like David Icke, floating out of guys like Simon Parks. A lot of fear porn, a lot of dogmatic zealotry, and just assumptions about the way things are and the way the universe works. That fills people full of paranoid thoughts about soul cages and reincarnation matrices and all that stuff.
Let's hear from Eric right now. Eric, what do you got going?
No, I feel what he's saying. I just was curious what CW thinks about possibility that Jesus was, and I'm not being sarcastic here, was a hybrid. I mean, he wasn't just standard human.
Right.
What's your take on that?
Good point.
Well, look,
a hybrid of what?
So I've heard, listen, in traveling these worlds and in talking to people, you have people that will get into vehement disagreements about whether or not Jesus was God incarnate, or whether or not Jesus was an alien or a hybrid, or whether or not Jesus was a demon. And then some people will jump in and say, well, yeah, the word demon has been demonized, and demon just meant spirit back in the day.
Daemon, it's spelled differently.
Exactly. Okay, so the point being is that I don't know. I don't know what a hybrid is.
I know you don't know. I'm just wanting your opinion. Just speculate from your own perspective.
Okay, yeah. No. So my opinion is that there were many Jesuses, and that the story that we have today is an amalgamation of the lessons and the things that were produced by many different players, and that got whittled down to central tenets that had gold in them, that had the power to tell people and explain to people and to teach people something. Some people got taught control, and some people got taught freedom. But that's the nature of the game. A sword can be used to defend a village, or it can be used to rape a village.
Right. Or you could be a worker, or you could be a server, or whatnot. You know. Yeah. That makes sense, bro.
Prince.
I think your bloodline has a lot to do with your course in your human existence.
And Eric, this is funny.
And
your
upbringing.
We've texted a lot. I think this is the first time that is this the first time that we're speaking voice to voice?
I think so. That is the first
I think so too. There's been many times we were going to do it on. Wasn't there? There was another.
Let me do it. Can I do the cordial invitation? This is C-Dub, this is E-Rock, and here you go.
Well, we know each other well.
Shake hands. Do a little proverbial shake hands.
We go back years, don't we, brother?
A couple years, I would say.
Yeah, a couple of years at least, man. And you know what? The great
passion. I appreciate your
passion. And I do. And you know what? I appreciate yours. And that's the funny thing. The great thing about me and Eric, the one quality that I know that we both have in common, that we both respect about the other person, is that no matter how heated the conversation can sometimes get, no one has ever blocked the other person. No one has ever said, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to communicate with someone.
Good radio.
That's why I respect you, Eric. That's why I love
radio,
you.
baby.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right.
It's fun.
That's how we roll. Good radio.
Is
All right.
Gigi still on the call, by the way? Gigi?
Well, with that have all being said, we do have to end this right now. So thank you, Chanter, Korinne, Eric, Brad, everybody that has been here tonight.
Eric, just because that's crazy. That's like the highlight of it. This is your life.
Let's have a little after party right now.
We can.
This was fun, you guys. Thank you. I love you guys.
All right,
you're the best.
Thank you very
much.
much.
It's only 12 o'clock. Technically, we could go over to my channel and start up a hangout.
That's true.
Corinne balances all of us crazy males, so even though she'll kick your balls.
Hey, listen,
I'm Hermione.
She will. Yeah, she will. But anyways, thanks everybody for coming here tonight. And with that being for fuck's sake.
Thank you, beautiful audience and chat members. You guys totally rock the world.
There we go.
Brandon,
thanks,
I'll go
everybody.
on your show any day. This is going to get Brandon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another edition of the B-Sides and Rarities channel for Shift Happens. Thanks to Chanter, Korinne, Eric, and Brad. Thanks everybody. Alright, we'll see you guys this Friday with Corinne Wilson, aka the Occult Priestess. Alright, cheers folks.